James Hood, welcome to Business Spotlight Interviews.
Thank you for having me, Andy.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the call. We're really excited to hear about your story and your learnings as an entrepreneur. Why don't we just start with what you do, what your company does, and how long you've been doing it?
Yeah, I'm James Hood. Our company's Esports Scotland. We're primarily an esports events company. We started as a community Facebook group back in 2017. Um, Now we focus on education, B2B, and our kind of B2C events. But at the beginning, we started as a community group. My background's in TV and video production. At the very beginning, I went around the country and found lots of people that were doing esports and gaming communities, and found out like everybody was doing it for the passion and the love, and nobody really knew who was doing what, Andy. Nobody knew, like, even within a 10, 15 mile radius, somebody else had a club they were starting or doing tournaments. So I thought, why don't we create like a Facebook page, and we can share what everybody's doing around the country and then try and grow the industry and the scene that way. So I met a good few people that are actually still with me today on that journey at that point. And before we knew it, we had season one of the Scottish Esports League. We got backed very early on by Currys, ASUS, and Nintendo gave us pre-release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And we held our first event in the Biscuit Factory, and I kind of self-funded that. That was great. We had season two. We went to Glasgow. We partnered with Curry's PC World. We done season two of the Scottish Esports League. We had partnered with Lenovo. We had a big, massive gaming truck called Big Betty. Anyone that's interested in esports, you should Google Big Betty. It's a big mammoth transformer esports truck, which was really cool. Season three, COVID didn't stop us. We continued on. We done it all online, which was great. So we done some money. We raised some money for the NHS, which was fantastic. Season four, we as part of a kind of 5G test bed and some funding, we done our event up in Dundee, which was really good for season four. And season five, we just done our season five finals last year in November up in Dundee once again. So that's been primarily our focus, has been the Scottish Esports League and growing the industry, growing the gaming community and giving all these players a place to play that they can play and, get some decent prize funds as well from it. And
So
since
what
then,
what actually happens?
sorry,
Sorry, what
yeah.
actually happens in an esports league? I mean, because it's a new sector to me. So what actually goes on? What's the
Yeah, we call it a kind of league, and it's kind of like a league by name, but not always by nature. Each game, in a sense, is kind of ran a different way, and there's different formats and different tournaments for each game. So if you imagine esports, for example, Andy, like you might say sports, okay, and then under sports you might have your basketball, your football, your hockey, your golf, and each of these games it's got its own fan base, and they're all ran differently, and they've all got different rules. And esports is similar, they've got all these different games that come under esports people want to play. Your MOBAs, your fighting game, your first person shooters, and each of these games has its own unique audiences as well that like these types of games. So what we've done is we kind of tried to get as many of the different, games as possible, put them all under the one umbrella, and then give people the opportunity to play and compete in their given game.
Okay. So you started the company.
Yep, that's correct.
What has been your biggest learning since you've become a business owner?
A million, I would say. I think,
Where to start?
yeah, I think people are so important. People say the word relationship, and they just say the word relationship, but relationship is so important. Relationship is so important for even business to business, relationships between companies. On the outside, you might see Esports Scotland, you might see Currys, but it's people in Currys and it's people in Esports Scotland. So, relationships are really important, and having the right kind of people around you is equally important.
I mean, I guess you're in the community business.
Yep.
So you really do see the value in that and the importance in forming good relationships and maintaining them.
Yeah, and that's the kind of person I am. I think I don't want to get a psychologist in to kind of nail down the psyche of who I am deep, but I'm a very personable person. I write emails quite flat. I'm not like, you're not going to get a massive email from me. I think I kind of say what needs to be said, and that's kind of led me well on my way.
What have been some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome since you started out?
People, once again, I think that's a difficulty as well. But I think cash flow was a big thing for us. I think starting the business off and having these grand ideas of what we wanted to do, that none of that came with a sustainable business model. You know, nothing that came to say, right, we're going to do this, but it's going to be sustainable. It's going to be, you're going to have cash flow coming in, you can pay people weekly, you know, and I think it was creating an event, creating a scene, trying to help grow a scene. Yeah.
And so, did you have a plan for where you were, how you were going to grow
Yeah.
the business, and where you were going to take it, or did it just sort of happen?
It kind of evolved, and then sometimes I'll look back in my old drives and look at the business plans that we kind of went through, and I think because I alluded to this when we spoke privately, well, before the call, Andy, that there is no complete business model into what we do. You know, we're basically Esports Scotland. We do a lot for the community and tournaments. We now do a lot within education, and we do a lot for B2B with esports. So now, if I had to write my business plan, it's a lot more solid, and it's got a lot more facts behind it to say this is what we've done and this is where we're going. So yeah, and this is year 6, right? So it's taken us about 6 years to eventually get to this point.
So, what are your aspirations for the next 6 years for the
I would
company?
love, yeah, I would love to think about how the company would start to maybe separate, and instead of everything being under the one Esports Scotland banner, there could be like an esports events company that would be able to go and run all these great IPs that we have, whether it be Scottish Esports League, Community Cups, Battlegrounds, right? They could run those as standalone IPs. I'd love to keep focusing on the education, which has actually been something that's been quite close to my heart. And we've managed to get some partnership with Xbox recently, and we've managed to get a lot of Xboxes out into schools to help with their NPA and esports. And just knowing you're doing something to actually help at that level with kids has been something that's been you get a lot of wins, but there's some things that really make you happy that you've done. So the education side for us is something I'd love to keep continuing on. And yeah, once again, just pushing on with the kind of the Scottish Esports League and growing that to being and we are kind of leading in what we're doing up here in Scotland, to be honest with you, in the UK. So I'd like to continue that.
I guess we were talking before the call about how being in business is an emotional journey for anybody, the ups and the downs. And you just mentioned there's wins. Like, how important is it for you to latch on to those wins and identify when you've done good?
Always. And you know what? I'm so self-critical and I take ownership of everything. I think if something's went wrong, I think accountability is really key. And I think you've got to look back to, rather than blame somebody for what they've done, you could probably go back a couple of steps and think, well, maybe that was because I never set that up properly, right? I think, you can be quite, I used to be anyway, quite judgmental, being like, what did you do that for? But, I think as I get older and I start to look in, you take a lot more on your chest. It's down to yourself at the end of the day.
So you're clearly very passionate about what you do in your
Yeah.
business and very committed. Um, how do you balance your personal life, demands of running this business? And this is one that people they're always keen to hear what other people are doing.
If I Sometimes when I tell people what we've got going on, they think, wow. And then I tell them I'm married. I've got a 10-year-old James. He's actually autistic, non-verbal. Very challenging for James. I've got a little girl that's 9. I've got a little boy who's 2, Jackson, and I've got a dog and a cat. And people think, wow, I mean that's enough. But I think the balancing act is very tricky. And I think when things start to get busy, switching off is really tricky. Another email pops up. I think one of the things I did try to do to stop that was maybe at some points I've taken my emails off my phone, or I've worked my phone to having different kind of pages. In a sense, the home page could be about my sport, entertainment. The next swipe could be about work. So just lots of tricks to try and separate it. But if you're a business owner and you've got things coming up and you're maybe worried about things, it's very hard to switch off. It's very hard to get them out.
Yeah, so you just have to do your best to be fully at home when you're at home and fully at work when you're at
Yeah,
work.
and it's the switching off part, Andy. I think, like I say, you get up, kids at school, you work, tea time, and then just even that kind of tea time, we call it tea time in Scotland, about 5 o'clock. Some people have a dinner about 8. We have our dinner or tea, as you call it, about 5 o'clock, and maybe those next couple hours are quite as I try to calm down from it and then to switch off. And I'm a gamer at heart. My wife and I, she gamers. So once we get the kids in bed, we game together. We've got a kind of gaming setup, so that's how we kind of I really switch off.
Even though that's that's kind of the industry you're in. And
Yeah,
yet
but that's the
you
thing. I mean,
do.
yeah, but that's why I love it so much, right? That's why we're so passionate about what we do, and I suppose that's why we've done what we've done because we live it, we breathe it, we enjoy it, and we consume it, right? So
100%.
yeah, that's it.
Go into a business that you love what they do, right? You didn't have to find the passion for your
No,
business. It was there.
it's evolved and it's just got stronger. And the more you get more traction, and the more things start to materialize. And for me, it's always it must be like having a gaming mindset. The going for your targets, like planning, getting it together, and getting executed. You're like done, excellent. Then you're like, what's next? Right. So for me, I don't spend a lot of time in marveling at what we've kind of done, and I probably should, but I'm always now thinking about what the next thing is, because I want to keep the business going, I want to keep it growing, I want to try and generate that cash flow to keep people paid, to keep people involved. So you're always having to think ahead, and not scare your team too much when you're trying to think maybe next year, the year after, and then you're talking to some guys and they're like, whoa, we've got one thing to do today, but then you're always trying to think ahead as well because you have to.
What would you say to anyone thinking of going into business?
Make sure you're not doing it for just the cash. That sounds really bad, but make sure that you're doing something because you love it and you like it. And I think, and that sounds really bad, I suppose, because you're not going to go into a business that's going to give you no money. But in my view, in my life, I like to enjoy my life, and I like to enjoy what I do. I've worked in loads of jobs, Andy. I worked in jobs where, like, as soon as I finished my work, I was already dreading getting up at 9. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people might be like that. They finish their work at 5. Wow, that's that done. Don't have to think about it, and then they go to their bed, and then they wake up and they don't want to go to work. I think for me, being fortunate to find this now, I think, yeah, enjoy every day that we do it, and I look forward to it. So definitely do it something that you care about, your knowledge about, or yeah, or if you've got a cracking idea, something you're going to be passionate about, because it's going to take, because there's times you're going to want to maybe throw it away. There's times you maybe want to give up, but they're the times that you've got to just really push through and keep going.
And I guess, they say we spend a third of our lives at work. We might as well enjoy it and be passionate about it and believe in
Absolutely,
it. Yeah.
absolutely.
And then the last question, James, it's kind of similar to the question I just asked, but what would be the best advice you would give to your own 18-year-old self?
Believe in yourself, believe in your ideas. Don't don't just, like, maybe you think of an idea, you might ask the wrong person, they might think it's rubbish. That doesn't mean your idea is rubbish. It maybe just means they don't get it. So, just believe, and if you've got an idea and you've got a belief and you've got a passion and you know how you're going to get there, just believe in yourself and do it.
Brilliant, great advice. James, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there going to be really interested to hear your story and your learnings, and also just find out more about what you guys actually do.
Yeah, no, listen, just watch the space. There's a lot of good things we've got coming up now, but don't give up, and it does take time, right? So don't rush it. It'll take time, but I think the best things in life take time, right?
They do indeed. James, thank you so much for coming on the call.
Pleasure, Andy. Thank you.